Good evening. This is the Dean's Letter for Saturday, the 19th of December. I've kept the focus on the icon rather than me this week as we journey with Mary and Joseph to the Christmas crib. But I'm devoting this evening's letter, today's letter, this week's letter, to welcoming our new diocesan bishop. So this week's letter has a different character from most of those I've written since the beginning of the first lockdown back in March. I've written, recorded and videoed a whole range of Christmas messages, and there is still one more to go in my sermon at midnight mass, which will be streamed live at 5:15 on Christmas Eve, let me correct that. Whilst I do not want to take Christmas for granted, and I'm fully coming to grips at the moment with what the implications of the new guidance may be, I do here want to celebrate above all the news announced on Thursday the 17th of December that Bishop Gully Francis de Kwani is to be the next Bishop of Chelmsford. Bishop Gully is currently Bishop of Loughborough, the suffragan bishop in the Diocese of Leicester. Now, the arrival of a new diocesan bishop is always a big moment. It is first a big moment for the person appointed, and indeed for their family, as they face being uprooted from their home and their networks and being planted in a new place. That's why the first thing I want to encourage all of us to do is to pray for Gully, for her husband Lee, and for their children as they prepare for the journey ahead. Those who know Bishop Gully, pronounced to rhyme with fully, so let's remember that, Gully rhyming with fully, speak of her warmly. Those who know her well speak of her warmly as a wise and reflective pastor and teacher, on the side of the angels when it comes to the things that matter. A new diocesan bishop is, of course, a big moment for the Diocese of Chelmsford, for church communities, clergy, and the whole strategic direction of the diocese through times of radical change with many challenges, but also a time of real opportunity to rethink priorities across East London and Essex and develop a new template for the Church of England's ministry here. And because the Church of England exists not to run churches, but to be at the service of the wider community as a fundamental gospel priority, a new diocesan bishop is a big moment for the huge web of networks which the churches are there to serve. Homelessness projects, advocacy, food banks, schools, chaplaincy in prisons, hospitals and universities, new housing projects, capacity building and so on. The church delivers so much of its mission through the strength of its partnerships, and the presence of the outward-facing and the presence of the bishop across those networks supports, sustains and signposts the essential nature of the church's outward-facing ministry. Vicars, and deans for that matter, are not paid to run churches, though that's part of what they do, but to be community priests way beyond the boundaries of the church. So what about the impact of a new diocesan bishop on Chelmsford Cathedral? The diocesan bishop is officially the chief dignitary of the cathedral and its visitor. Now that's quite cold and formal language. More significantly, the diocesan bishop is absolutely core to the cathedral's identity. One way of saying it is that the only reason the cathedral is the bishop. Simple as that. And its core purpose as cathedral is to be there for the bishop. Now that's made really explicit in the word cathedral. That word comes from the Greek word for seat, and the seat in question here is the bishop's seat. Now these range in size and splendour across cathedrals. Here in Chelmsford, the bishop's seat, the cathedra, hence cathedral, is intentionally made of the same Westmoreland slate as the table for the Eucharist and the font for baptism. And in our uniquely flexible building, the bishop's seat and the table for the Eucharist, the altar, are the only two pieces in the cathedral that cannot be moved. They are foundational, literally and metaphorically. And I love it that here at Chelmsford Cathedral, a large copy of the Bible is placed open on the bishop's seat, except when the bishop is present. And why does the bishop have a unique seat in the cathedral? Well, because in Christian tradition, teachers sit down to teach. You can see that in the practice of Jesus himself. Sitting to teach is the normal practice of any Jewish teacher, and Jesus sits down to teach. Perhaps the most famous example is the beginning of what we call the Sermon on the Mount. To quote Matthew 5:1-2, when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them. In a similar way, Christian bishops have typically and traditionally sat down to teach. Their seat in the cathedral has become a sign of their authority to teach, and because the cathedral serves the whole diocese, it becomes a sign of the core purpose of the cathedral as a springboard, platform and support for the bishop's ministry across the communities of East London and Essex. On a formal level, Bishop Gully arrives at the right time for the cathedral as we implement the new cathedral governance structure, make new appointments to key roles, and seek deeper missional alignment with the diocese. The new year also marks the end of one whole planning cycle in the life of the cathedral and the development of the cathedral's new strategic plan. Now, this is a living process in which all of us are involved, and although it's coincidental that it happens at the same time as we begin to address our re-emergence from coronavirus, that feels like great timing and a wonderful moment for our new diocesan bishop to speak into the life of the cathedral and share with us her wisdom and insight for the journey ahead. And Bishop Gully arrives at the right time for Chelmsford Cathedral as we seek to discern what kind of cathedral God is inviting us to be and to become as we slowly emerge from this wide space of time that has already changed our priorities, our patterns of prayer and worship, a period which has, unexpectedly perhaps, widened the scope of the cathedral's ministry, enlarged the scope of our mission, and enabled us to discover new ways of growing in faith and sharing our faith with others. And this letter does, of course, despite my lack of addressing Christmas, come with our very best wishes to all of you for this special feast. God bless you.